Hello everyone, so I'm Ben Russell, I'm the curator of the mechanical collections at the Science Museum in London. Now, like so many of you at the moment, I'm trapped at home working, and I'm here in my shed surrounded by all my stuff, and I've been doing quite a bit of DIY. First thing I found out was actually DIY has been around for a really long time, much longer than I'd expected. So there's a book by a guy called Joseph Moxon, which he publishes in 1683, 1684, and it's called Mechanic Exercises. Now, the thing that Moxon does is he actually describes a whole series of practical jobs that you can do, everything from joinery to even printing. And the lovely thing about it is what you've got here for the first time is the granddaddy of all those DIY manuals that exist today, an awful lot earlier, centuries earlier than you might previously have expected it to be. Now, Moxon sets the pattern for a whole strong, a very rich history of DIY. You come right up to the 19th century, and there is what you might call turning. So you use a lathe, a machine tool, you take metal or wood, and you rotate that metal, and you cut into it with tools. Actually, I've got an example of a turned object just here. So this is a plumb bob. I collect these, they're lovely things. And this, as you can see, is a really nice shape, and this has been turned in a lathe. You can still see the tool marks in it. So what a lot of these turners are doing are not just producing relatively simple shapes, they're producing really complicated patterns and shapes. It's called ornamental turning. The Science Museum has got a lovely, rich collection of ornamentally turned things. They're not cheap machines. You know, this is a project, a hobby you would have only if you have a certain amount of money in the bank, because they're very expensive. But what is also interesting to find out is that actually this wasn't just a gentleman's hobby. There's actually a lot of women who are working in it as well. Catherine the Great of Russia, the Empress of Russia, is a turner. And in 1842, Mary Gascoigne writes her Handbook of Turning. And in that she writes, why should not our fair country women participate in this amusement too? And so Mary Gascoigne is actually in really good company. There's a seagull. Now, in the 19th century, there's a strong moral aspect to this as well. In 1859, Samuel Smiles writes a book called Self-Help. And in that, he actually makes this point. Actually, this is about self-improvement. People want to go and do it themselves, to make themselves better, to have new skills, new opportunities to do different types of work, and that sort of thing. You come up to the 20th century, and really, the incentive to do DIY is less moral and perhaps more practical. Don't forget, this is a century which is scarred by war. In the Second World War, you have the moves to do make, do, and mend, and the propaganda call to dig for victory. So they're really encouraging people to turn over as much land as they can to grow food, and also to fix clothes. Don't buy new when you can fix what you've already got. And also, what you have for the first time really is that women are entering jobs that have traditionally only been done by men, jobs in factories and manufacturing and that sort of thing. And then in the 1950s and the 1960s, what we get is this remarkable affluence and prosperity. So for the first time, people have got a decent weekend. They're not working Saturday mornings. They're actually getting more money than they've ever had before. They can often buy their own homes. They actually have, for the first time, opportunities to do DIY. Well, and that's driven by all sorts of things. So, for example, there's lots of magazines which are available for the first time. And there's also even the role of the TV as well. So Barry Bucknell is a figure who looms quite large in this. Barry is a real TV personality, and his series on how to do DIY jobs around the house attract millions, tens of millions of viewers every week. It doesn't always go well, actually, for Barry. So he's filming these programs live, and occasionally you get things like wallpaper falling off walls and things going wrong, and he just shrugs and says, well, you have to learn from your mistakes, as indeed we do. And now you come up to today as well, and we're fascinated by making and upcycling and that sort of thing. And in a way, YouTube is the descendant of Moxon's mechanic exercises in the 1680s. If you want to do pretty much anything, you go to YouTube and you find out everything from putting up shelves to building things to repairing a bike. It's all on there. Someone's made a film about it, which is remarkable. So let's not forget, DIY actually covers a whole range of different skills, practical skills, that sort of thing, and we can all go to our sheds and work on stuff. But we live in a disposable society. Very often we want to get rid of things rather than fix them. Just go and buy another one. It's cheaper. Why not? Now, And there's a big questioning of that. Do we want to live that way anymore? You also think about the rise of climate change and the need to be more sustainable, and maybe that emphasis on practical skills which DIY brings is actually really valuable in that regard. If you fix things, you make things yourself, it's more sustainable. DIY is also about the state of mind, and that state of mind is going to be really, really valuable in the future. So if you've enjoyed this, then actually please feel free to leave a like. You can also subscribe to the Science Museum's YouTube channel. And if you really, really want to find out more, what you can do is actually click on a link in the description.